Everybody, welcome to episode 200 of Fight Chat Friday. So we're going to do a special one today, obviously with 200 being a nice milestone. We're going to have a look at our GOAT, our pound for pound, whatever way you want to have a look at it. And we're going to have a little list of people that have done some fantastic things in ITF Sparring in particular, World Championships. So most of these people are at least two-time world champion. Some of them are one-time world title, and maybe some other special things that give them a little bit of a boost to get onto this tier list originally. So just a fun one today. Get involved in the comments, share your thoughts on who your favorites are, and we'll just have a bit of fun with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose without spending too much time wondering or worrying about how did we end up picking each person, I think we tried to make sure that anyone with with two or more world titles in individual sparring was included. If we miss somebody, we can blame how bad the record keeping is in the World Championships, because it's not actually easy to find all of this information sometimes. So we did try our very, very best. If somebody is missed, we'd love to be educated. So please hit us up with that information. Other than that, we have, to broaden it out a little bit, included some single-time world champions who maybe are memorable for other reasons. So and maybe there's a few people who are more recent in memory, because it's easier for us to remember people that we've actually seen competing than those champions that were winning before we were born, or that kind of thing. So I'm speaking for you there, Richie, I suppose, more than myself, but look, we'll see how it goes. So
who do we have first?
Seba.
First on the list, Seba. So from Argentina.
Yeah.
From my recollection, I think he's won it twice. Is that fair? And definitely won the World Cup a couple of times as well.
Yeah, I think it's one World Championships and two World Cups, but I could be easily proven wrong on that one. But I think that's correct. I think in 2015, is that the World Championship year for him?
No, he won 2017 against Ivan.
17. Oh no, I know. I'm thinking the guy who beat Shane O'Rourke in the final. He was another big beast of a boy.
Fought him.
Yeah,
Fernando Marin fought him.
There you go. Yeah,
nightmare. So I actually fought Seba in that same tournament, but in team. But yeah, he's very, very good. I don't remember him losing too often. Very long, knew his strengths really, really well. Hard hitter, did really well against some of the people who dominated Europe for a long time as well. The likes of Mraz, the likes of Bartosz. These guys were like running through Europe for a long time, and he was able to do well against them anytime he met them outside of the European scene. So definitely top level fighter. Like all these people are going to be so good, so it's going to be very hard.
Absolutely.
So where do we start? What's the tier list? I suppose to start off, let's put him A/B. Like, it's very hard to rank these because they're all the kings and queens of ITF, but
yeah,
we'll start with that.
Well, it gives us a place to work from, and if we find that we've got people that are jumping out for their achievements more than Seba, we can put them up or down. But it's no matter what we do, we're going to offend somebody and compliment somebody else. So let's just get on with it and have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
Our next one then, Pato Garlic. So Argentinian competitor, very, very long career at the senior level as well. And again, two-time world champion, I think, as well as a bronze medal, I think, at World Championships as well.
Yeah, over a long period of time as well. I think she got a title in 2015, and then I think 2003 as well. So like almost a decade between them. So like to be able to be at that level for such a long time, different eras, different athletes, that's impressive. So I think that's definitely a standout for sure. Where do you think she goes on the list?
Yeah, again, I think you could start pushing up, and we'll end up with everybody here in the S tier, and it's not quite there. I think I'm going to put Pato into that A tier. I think one of the things that's going to start separating people as they go is the entertainment level, or the viral clip level of their competition. So if people are memorable based on what they did against the class of opponent they were up against in it, then I think they'll go higher. So I think I'll start Pato up there and see how it goes. But for a very consistent competitor who was very effective, I wouldn't have said that she was necessarily the most dynamic or super exciting of the competitors that we're going to see down here. So she might find herself sliding down that A tier a little bit, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, when you said highlight reel there, that's the next one for sure. We can see lots of axe kicks from this man, and lots of celebrations, and there's not many clips from back in the day, but anyone who was decent definitely was shown a lot, and he was one of them. 3-time world champion, is that right?
I don't think Pierre was. I know he won the world title once. I think he had run up, but I'd have to see if we can find that again. I don't know if he was 3-time. Paul Germain 3 times for sure. Pierre definitely once.
Sorry, that's what I'm
you're thinking,
up, yeah.
Paul? Yeah, no. But we'll have to see if we can find that info. But again, a little bit special because what he was doing for the time was so out of left field. And I think, we'll talk about Paul Germain as well, and it's very much that kind of thing. They were doing things that other people weren't doing at that time, and they were making it work for them. They were winning with it. So, I mean, and Pierre Grenette would have been another one of the King of Taekwondo characters from when that competition was running, along with Stefan Tapalatu and Thomas Barada. So for me, he kind of lives in that rarefied air of people who were, known through the Taekwondo world, through the martial arts world in general, because of these bigger poster competitions as well. So I'm going to put him up there maybe with, on the basis of 1 World Championships, that's scoring very high. But on the basis of, being still memorable after, so many years, and the lack of video that was around at the time and everything, I think it's quite impressive.
Yeah. Next we have a Barada and a Tapalatu, but not the ones that are the most known and the most famous, let's say. So we have Bianca, who won it in 2001, is that right? 52?
Yeah, so Bianca has, I think, 2 world titles. So yeah, again, I'd have to go 2001 for sure, and I'd have to go digging to find the second date, but 2 world titles and I think 3 European titles as well.
Nice. Yeah, a little bit before my time. I wouldn't be too familiar with her, and I don't think there's that many videos creeping around. I think there's one of her fighting, I want to say a catcher, or somebody that's like memorable. Yeah. But there's definitely one floating around YouTube, but not too familiar with her myself. This one's on you.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, the issue, I think, or what really stood out for me with what the Tapalatu family in particular from the Netherlands were doing at the time was just the fact that they were a little bit of a standout. It was, you had Bianca, you had Stefan, you had Django Pataparu, and of course coached by their father. So like it was a dynasty thing as well, which in its own way is it's super memorable because they were winning in all of these different divisions. And I think there was a year when Pataparu was the winner in microweight and Stefan in lightweight, and and Bianca, I think possibly at the same time, certainly at European level, winning in the microweight female as well. So for me, like Bianca was one of the kind of the first standout names amongst the women, one of those repeat winners. So she would be up there in my estimation with the in terms of those repeat winners of the time. So would say when I was coming to the international circuit and coaching on that level for the first time, where you'd have been talking about Bianca, you'd been talking about Joanna Proprotska, you'd have been talking about on a European level Magdalena Rogachevska with 11 European titles and so on. Like there was people like that who stood out, and of course Julia Cross. So for me, the 2 world titles, it's rare that's been done. It's even more rare, I think, on the women's side of it to get towards that 2 or 3 than it has been on the men's side. So I think it's a standout achievement.
Where's she gone?
Yeah, I know we're going to be moving some of these days later, but this is, I think we'll go up here as well.
Yeah. All right. So next one, we have a lady from Argentina who has definitely won the Worlds in -70. So I'm not sure if herself and Pato maybe switched a couple there when there used to be only one competitor per country. I don't know if that's the case. But
was Anna Cornell plus 70? So
I think she won minus at least once anyway, but maybe plus, yeah.
But I think there's a world title at either one. So possibly that's it. But yeah, again, 2 world titles on the 70 or plus 70 side of things. So before the weights changed as well. And again, I think this is a really good achievement. Like it's a standout, and she's in the Taekwondo Hall of Fame for that reason. I think the thing that we struggle with, and maybe it's that element of like how much of this gets recorded and what's out there. I've not seen much of her sparring. And that is,
I've never seen her fight.
Yeah, and that is for me why I'm going to put her, like, she has 2 world titles. I can't put her below Seba on that one, but I think on that level is where we're going to start on this one.
All right, so now a person that has plenty of world titles, you might be more familiar with him than myself as well, but somebody who, again, I think was on the circuit around that time of the King of Taekwondo. Did Thomas Barada win that? Was he the winner?
Thomas was one of the winners of the King of Taekwondo, yeah, for sure. And I'm not sure that Paul Germain did King of Taekwondo, but 3 times world champion, and leading up to I think he'd have lost to David Kerr then in that may have been in Malaysia. I'm not actually 100% sure where that one happened, but the biggest thing for me was just, it was the creativity, it was the having a different sparring style, and there was so much of the at the time, the long hair, the big baggy dobok, the macho sparring gloves, the shouting on the contacts, and big shots, the big reverse turning kicks, the big axes, and huge backhands. Like, there was I just think his timing was so good that sometimes he wasn't working too hard. It didn't look like he was working too hard, and then he was super explosive. So again, anyone who's putting together 3 world titles, you're talking about 6 and 8 years at the top of the game. I think that's super impressive. And for me, and especially with being one of our first 3-time winners, I think kind of have to start off.
Bronze in Malaysia, 71s as well. Oh, Brahim Triqui, he got a silver that time, coach of the German team.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, yeah. Caravan Roon, he's a guy that's known for his highlights for sure. Obviously, beneficiary of the era of social media. That's going to be a factor here for sure as well for our memories. So, a guy who has got some big highlight reels with 360 knockouts, bandays, etc. He can throw all the shots in the book. Really, really impressive world title from him. And I think Olli Lieno from Finland put a cool video of him together on that run as well. Very, very impressive. He has more world titles in other disciplines than sparring, but in terms of sparring, definitely high level for sure. I think he goes on that maybe because he has the one, and looking at the amount of titles other people have on that list, he has to probably go on that B, but up there with one of the most exciting to watch for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when you're looking at someone who has 6 world titles, I mean, he's a legend. Like, you have to go on his own right regardless. But when we look at the sparring specifically, in the end, it was the 1 world title in New Zealand in 2011. And, and a great final with...
Off division too.
Yeah, that's right. But awesome stuff. So...
I think he got did he get a silver as well against Batista in Argentina the Worlds before, 2009?
You have me there. I don't know.
I think they fought in the final, yeah.
Okay. So we're on to Stefan, and I've just noticed that Stefan got his picture in here twice, however he managed that. So, and so did Thomas. So maybe they just had they're just very good looking guys. Yeah, they're very good looking guys. They get themselves out there in social media. That's what happens. So we'll talk about him just the once though. So Stefan, 2-time world champion.
2-time. Yeah.
And I think I don't know how many. I think it was a 3 times European champion as well. So he was busy. He was very busy, and again, very dynamic. That kind of like explosive. The front leg side kick so strong, like really explosive. And I think what the Taplatus and the Dutch were bringing at the time was the back leg turning kick. That really powerful 45 back leg turning kick hadn't really been in the game before they came along, and then lots of people got to learn, by experiencing it, how effective that might be. And it took the brother-in-law, I think, to eventually dethrone him. But it was, he's still certainly one of the names and one of the faces that's most recognisable across the sport.
Yeah, I always knew he was a legend in ITF a little bit before my time, obviously. But when he did the podcast with Jamie on the Black Belter podcast, then you kind of realise and say, this guy, he was the real deal. Do you know what he did? He transitioned into different martial arts as well.
Yeah.
It definitely gives you a little bit more background on how good and how much of a legend he really was. So I think at least he has to go in the A tier, if not into the superior list up around GOAT status, maybe just below that in the A at least. Okay,
so we're going to put him somewhere up here, and shuffling up and back, we'll see who's making their way up there at the very, very end. and we can readjust as you go. But I completely agree. He certainly has staked his claim. Now, jumping straight onto the ladies' side of it, we have someone who is, again, another ITF Hall of Famer with not just 3 sparring world titles, but 3 patterns world titles as well. So Miss Julia Cross from Scotland. There's so few. It's going to be very hard for me to separate which of the ladies that have the 3 world titles should be up, should be down, but for the sheer consistency, over time, I think I'll have to start Julia up on that S tier and then see if there's anybody to move her.
I think she's definitely in around that female GOAT category for sure.
Yeah,
I think everybody knows who she is. Her record speaks for herself. She's just exceptional. So yeah, she has to be included. Everybody knows the level of performance she's produced in both patterns and sparring. So yeah, definitely up there in a contention with that female GOAT list tier.
Which brings us on to Sylvia Frigu, who's, I suppose, in some ways newer to our ITF, having done some of her competitive career with one of the other groups. And so I think her only world title in our ITF was in 2017 in Ireland.
Yeah.
In sparring.
In the final. Yeah.
In sparring.
Won a few Euros as well, I think.
Yeah.
And also, she is also listed in the Hall of Fame. So she's listed in the ITF Hall of Fame as well. So like a few others on this list. So I think considering where we have other people with similar achievements, I know she's done lots of other stuff in other ITF groups. I think she has to probably go to that B list for now. But really, really good. And I think she's done quite well in other categories. And also like WACO and things like that as well. I know she's got a title from WACO in light contact. Very, very crafty, very intelligent. And one thing that always stood out for me is how she was able to adapt in the actual fight on the fly and be able to adjust to what was happening and be able to get that result and switch when needed. So yeah, very, very good to watch and exceptional competitor.
So yeah, we're getting on to one who's a short senior international career, 1 senior world title. I don't know, was it 2 or 3 senior Euros?
Got a few.
Think, yeah, but Vitaly Solovay, we were talking about this beforehand. We're pretty sure he didn't lose an individual match at senior, or at junior for the last couple of years.
I don't think he's ever lost a Euros or a Worlds match. I know he lost a match in a Dutch Open once to a Norwegian guy who I don't even think was like on the national team or whatever. One round maybe just caught on the hop. But other than that, I can't think of anybody. So for that reason, that's why he has to be mentioned in this list, I think. If he just went on a little bit longer, he probably would have solidified his name to get up there to that GOAT status. But just because of the other people that we have here, for me, he's on the A list. He could have been pushing for GOAT status if he was around a little bit longer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, certainly he was, like, I've coached against him plenty of times. He was a pain to deal with, and it was just an absolute challenge to get around what he was capable of doing and the pressure he was capable of creating. Turning him off was part of the challenge of coaching, and when someone steps into the ring and dictates what you're going to have to do for the match, that's a really, really good sign. And I think, he was like an exceptionally capable character on that front. So I've no issue with that A status there. On to another one who's a little bit like that. We have a guy who's 2 senior world championships and we think 3 World Cup wins junior. And 1 junior world champion
as well.
Yeah.
And also was in the final. He was definitely in the final in 2013 against Matt. Maybe I think there's a few more that are not coming to mind, but definitely up there. One of the most exciting ITF fighters to watch, in my opinion, ever. Really, really explosive. A joy to watch. All the shots, very dynamic. He's top notch. He's top tier.
Yeah.
For me, he has to go on that A list.
Yeah, which is in one way almost unfortunate, like that 3rd world title, and he goes straight, but no, I completely agree. He's always an exciting fighter to watch. You're never going to be bored sitting at ringside. There's always going to be a little drama. It's going to get interesting, and that definitely makes it the place to be, I suppose, that A tier. Our good buddy from Wales is next. Richie, what you got to say about Neil?
Yeah, Neil is another guy who's like just so graceful when he takes to the mats, and everything he does just looks effort, kind of like Julio. A joy to watch, really, really good. One of the guys who beat David Kerr, who's on the list, the only 4-time world champion. So like obviously up there with the best of the best. I think he's only one title. Is that correct? In 2003?
Yeah, that's the thing. And sometimes when you
David.
look back at it, at the end of Neil's career, it's incredibly surprising that he only won the one. But it just shows you that it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
and especially
I think so because
it.
of that, he probably goes on that B list. But just for me, in terms of his sheer class and what he could do, he could be up there in that A list for sure.
Absolutely. We've got Ilona Jawa next, who again, for me, it felt like as I was coaching that Ilona was there forever, in a weird way, and started as Daniel's little sister, but then absolutely just as she continued and her career developed, she just went on and on and on, and I think finished with 2 world titles. It's
Argentina and New Zealand maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. No, sorry, not Argentina. It's, New Zealand definitely, and then was it Italy?
Okay.
I think Italy in 2015. But yeah, the 2 world titles, several European championships in the middle, and I don't know how many team titles with Poland. That team was like an absolute rock star team. Again, really tough, hard fighter as well. And it didn't look it, from the outside, but when the girls would come out after the match, you go, okay, this girl hits hard. So
she won New Zealand as well, actually. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Is it so? Argentina, New Zealand, and Italy. So we actually got 3.
2015.
2015.
Is that what you're thinking? In 2015 in
Italy,
is it?
in Italy, yeah.
I have to check that one, but she won 58 in 2011, beat Carolina Dillon in the final.
Yes.
So yeah, I'll have to check you solo and get back to you.
Very good, very, very good. But I'm thinking still off the back of the 2 world titles and everything else, we're in a very, very solid A category fighter here.
Yeah, I agree. Top notch, been around for a long time. I think at the start of her career as well, like you said, Daniel's little sister, and was maybe against some really high level people that have come before her, but really grew into that and really developed quickly to be able to become a name for herself and a bit of a stalwart in her own division as well eventually. So yeah.
Absolutely. One of the stablemates there in that golden team of the from Poland, Joanna Paprocka, 3-time world champion, and I don't know how, I think 3-4-time European champion as well. So and many times with the Polish team. Quite a unique style. Very, very patient. Pull, and then hit like a pile driver. I don't know what. When she went.
She was the scary one in the female division for a long time. The one that everybody feared.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
a couple of them people around in both the male and female game, but she was definitely one of those in the girls categories. Anybody who was trying to avoid her for a long time.
You didn't want to get that drawing team, and it was it was that kind of thing, and. She could certainly mix it, and the thing was as well, while she was, I suppose, known for the pulling and the strong hands, she could pull out a reverse turning kick or a downward kick every now and again that was just like really dramatic and like really put the exclamation point on it. So she also ended up with some great highlight reels, and for me, again, she's right up there. She's very, very close in my mind to where like Julio is, Stefan and Julia. Maybe just a little bit behind Julia in terms of the variety of opponents and different things, but certainly as close as. Your thoughts?
I can't disagree with that. Yeah, I'd have her in that A list for sure, especially for being the top dog, as to take one from our last tier of the active crew that we had in episode 198. She was the top dog of the females for a long time and the one everybody feared. So I think because of that and for being able to hold that for so long, I think she deserves to be in that A list.
Oh, absolutely. Going on to Big Brother, so that was Daniel Jawa. I think he did all of his career at -80. Although I have seen a video of him when he was smaller, but not by much.
I think he fought 63 at one stage actually as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, was my favorite fighter for a very long time when I was coming through as a junior. He was the guy that I used to watch and wanted to be like. So inspired me a lot for sure.
The babyface
Joy
assassin.
To watch. Yeah, so calm, so collected, and then bang, he'd hit you out of nowhere. Very unique style, very low tempo, nothing too crazy, but again, somebody everybody feared. 2 world titles in a row as well, which is very hard to do. Not everybody can do that. A lot of these people here who have multiple world titles, there's not a streak back to back, so that's no mean feat to do that either. So yeah, I think he probably has to go on. I'm a bit biased because he's one of my favorites, but I think he goes on that A list for sure.
Yeah, I again don't have an issue with that, and for me, he kind of exemplified that. That Lubartov stable of the time, and with Miłosz and with others, where the movement was just so slick that sometimes when everything was coming together, it looked untouchable. So even if there wasn't massive scoring going on at times, it just looked like there was no chance of actually getting a score off of him. It was really, really challenging. So yeah, we'll throw him up.
That fight he had on of him on YouTube against Zach is just one of those ones where it's just a joy to watch. You're just wondering how this stuff is possible and how he could flow so naturally like that, and great performance. So yeah, go check him out if he's a new one and you haven't come across him yet. So some cool stuff that he was doing back before anybody else was.
And I suppose that's one of the lessons of these things. Like, it depends on where you've taken your interest in international competitive taekwondo, because when you look at some of the people that went a little bit before, you might be surprised by some of the tech that they had and some of what they could do. The next one has to just start. We'll put him up here and we'll start the conversation, I think is the way I would look at it, because there's no one else with the 4 senior world titles. So he's kind of in a category all of his own on that, in that way. So what do we say about David Kerr?
Absolute gent. We had him on Fight Chat Friday a long time ago, so go check that one out if you haven't come across him before and you're a little bit new to ITF. But great guy. He's been there across many different generations of ITF as well. He's competed against the likes of Colin Adolphs. He's competed against the old school guys like Neil Ernest. He's been there, done it all.
Paul Germain,
4 world titles, and I think he's definitely been on the podium other times as well. So to be able to do that is definitely he has to be up on that GO.A.T tier, on the S list for me.
Somehow he seems
it's very hard to argue against that.
He just seems to have bridged somehow from the from the late 80s to early 90s all the way through to the 2000s. So somehow, I don't know that that's actually physically possible, but he seems to have done it.
Categories as well.
Yeah,
I don't think many people have done that.
No, and what's really interesting is he's coming out of Brazil, which is a country that doesn't have a massive depth of population in terms of people to compete against. So he's kind of done it as a solo run as well. So in its own way, that's super exciting and and interesting to see. Not always the most memorable fighter in terms of not all of the matches he was in were super exciting.
He whacked you with a band-aid.
Yeah, until he hits you with a band-aid or a back kick. So but for me, there's no arguing. He has to stay there. He's the only one with the 4 titles, so you can't argue with success.
Mm-hmm. Another very successful guy for sure, him and his brother.
Yeah. So Dariusz Idzikowski, 3 times world champion in the plus 80. Again, across a little bit of a span of time, he had a couple of silvers in there as well. And it didn't always go his own way, and he was always then a bit of a send out. He was always a safe send on the team sparring side of things as well. I think he's a judge now in Poland, funnily enough.
Oh, wow.
But very interesting character. So again, another one of these three-peat characters. The one thing I would say is he never did anything exciting in the ring in terms of and I don't say that to put him down. He did the same 3 things over and over again, and it worked. So I
see him burying a few back leg dolios in on people numerous times, and I remember him saying, I'm glad that's not me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He had he was the owner of the original Gami front leg that was so difficult to deal with. He could just reach across the whole ring with that thing and put you on your back end. As
very traditional guard as well, in terms of how a boxer would hold their hands almost.
Yeah. So you knew it was him. You did only need to see the silhouette, and you knew it was him. So in that sense, quite memorable. But even with the 3 world titles, I'm not going to put him up past, I think, some of the guys that we have here. I'm going to sit him somewhere in the comfortably in A tier on that record. But in terms of memorable, exciting, highlight reel stuff, maybe on that basis, he might drop down just a little.
Yeah. Next we have Nina, is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
3-time world champion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are in the hyper weight or the very lowest weights don't get the clout that they deserve sometimes, because it's just the way it is. The heavyweight people, for some reason, they just don't seem to get the same highlights. And I suppose that's a factor of it too. The highlights is the magic stuff the likes of Julio can do, and Neil Ernest and people like that, and even Katja, who we will get to later. I think the people who are in the taller people just don't have that same luxury of being so flashy, which definitely affects their reputation a little bit. So,
yeah, I definitely think that's it. You know, it's this A tier is going to fill up a little bit too much for us, but there's not much we can do about that. I think, you know, when you have people who are taking 3 titles, you know, in a very short space of time. I mean, it's all within a decade as well. But like 3 titles at that weight class, you know, it's an enormous achievement. But I think we're up here somewhere, anywhere in that tier. Just because we can't have anyone who has 3 titles any lower than A. It's not possible.
I feel bad when I see Neil Ernest down below that then.
Yeah, look, I mean, the thing is, the guy's got better highlight reels. You know, he's a slick operator. He's an absolute joy to watch when he's in motion. But I suppose that the results didn't come his way all the time. And I mean, that's it in sport, isn't it? Sometimes you can be an entertainer, you can be, you know, a legend without necessarily being the most effective team out there. I mean, how many times have Brazil won the World Cup, and how many times have Germany won it? I think it's fairly similar, isn't it?
Yeah, Axel Vargas is like that, isn't he? He's always known for being flashy, and he wasn't too concerned with being boring and drawing out a good result, as opposed to being flashy and enjoying it himself. Yeah, hence why he called himself the devil, I suppose.
Maybe. So yeah, here we have a similar category. So Lindsay Conway has the distinction of winning 3 world titles for 3 different countries. So yeah,
3 different countries. That's
Poland, Ukraine, and Ireland. So 3 world titles, which is, and I think all of them at 68 kilos.
Well, I think that she knew that this tier list was coming along, and she was like, I'm going to have to distinguish myself from all the other 3-time world champions. Yeah. How clear that? 3 different countries. That's impressive.
Oh, massively.
Different camps, different cultures, different training systems, the whole lot. That's very impressive.
No, absolutely. And, you know, and the thing about it is the style that she does it in is also uniquely hers. Because it's like she has her own pressure style. It's tempo. It's not high tempo, but it's just it encroaches, and again, a little bit like Paprotska in her time. I think she brings a little bit of that. That, you know, there's a lot of girls in the division. They don't enjoy sparring Lindsay. Don't like what Lindsay brings to it, and you know that was a feature in it. She would step into the space and almost intimidate some of her opponents, which was, you know, was quite interesting. So I think memorable in that sense as well. Top tier legend, maybe not, but I think again a good solid A category competitor.
Yeah, for sure. Again, somebody nobody wants to fight. Very, very good. Like, she was, I think the mental strength she brought to it as well is something that we must mention. Coming back from very serious injuries multiple times, being able to get on that recovery road, which is a long one, and then get back there to the top of her game as well, and usually in a different country, which is that's mad.
So we had a slightly different conversation to have here in terms of Katja Sullivan, who again, the exact number of European world titles, do you know off the top of your head?
No, I remember she won Worlds 2007 in Canada, and I think she won 2013, that last second axe into back kick. I think she retired then after that. Is that right?
After Canada.
Yeah, that was her last one. No, after Benidorm 2013. So
yeah, that didn't. Yeah, Canada seemed way too early. Yeah, so it's one of those things where you
multiple
can
Euros.
And several World Cups as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me though, she is the female GOAT. She's like, she could do every shot in the book. I know she doesn't have the same titles as other people have on this list, but for me, she was the GOAT of the females.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, I know she'd won World Cups before World Championships, I think, as well. That was kind of one of the things. And I know what a big factor initially was, it was difficult for the Ukrainians to travel, when at some of the earlier stages as well. But you will probably not find more highlight reels or more flashy finishes, for any other female fighter. Like, she is the poster child for the back kick. So I would say in many ways iconic.
Yeah, and I think for many females and young girls throughout the years who have now become champions, the likes of Sarah Lahan, even people like that, the likes of Kira, all these people seen her as inspiration. So I think that, like, she was the first to. Her and Julia were out there setting the stall for all these other females to come along and do some special things behind them. So yeah, I think she's up there with the female GOAT, her and Julia.
Yeah, so we are going to drop right up there. I think our next one, Matt Cadle, came almost as a little bit of a surprise to you.
Yeah, so I actually forgot that he had a second one, because I remember he fought Julio in the final in Benidorm. That was a good fight. And then I had to go back to 2007 because I remember there was two English in the 63s. There was Cypher in the 63s junior, and then I remember there was a 63 senior also, and obviously that was Matt.
Yeah.
And then I think he's won a Euros as well, maybe Scotland. So I think he's got 2-1.
Yeah. Do you know what? And my memory of the one in Canada in particular was like, oh, that's perfect. So a guy who's just got a really good balance stance and a lethal front leg, and slippy mats, and it was the perfect combination for Matt. And I think he just drove through on that and did so well. He's fun to watch because he's always smiling the whole way through. He just does not, he doesn't let up. His energy is unreal. And he just has, such an enthusiasm for the game. And even if he's getting smashed, which rarely enough happened, he's still somehow smiling and enjoying the game and finishing, on a high. So, for me, he's one of the characters of the sport, of that, that decade, that period of time. I don't think he necessarily got the results that his abilities maybe might have earned him. Double world champion, awesome stuff, but I think he drops into our B tier.
Yeah, his output, his energy, and the fact that he was able to just grind people, that either was his kryptonite or that was him winning and destroying everybody. But yeah, joy to watch. Every time he took to the mats, he's somebody that you turn your eye to that ring. So yeah.
Got the update on Katja. So yeah, 2 world titles and 9 European titles and 2 World Cups. So
wow,
it's not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah. So then we're on to another 6-time world champion, Katerina Kozlechkova from Russia. So 3 sparring, 3 special technique. Again, on typically the -70 or -68, sometimes +7, it varied a little bit. But very notable for, in particular, that big downward kick and, a really noticeable kind of style when she was sparring. But for me, I think, maybe was she best of a generation? But it was consistent for the period of time that she was there. But I will definitely remember more for the special technique in some ways. Awesome, super solid competitor. I said already, I don't think I can put someone who's got 3 world titles below that A tier, but I think that's where she goes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, again, like Nina, like the other people there that we mentioned, Darius, etc. Like the people who are in the heavyweights or the bigger categories, usually they don't get the same clout. But yeah, three times being a world champion, that's very, very impressive.
Oh, it's amazing. Colin Adolphs, he's one of a repeat. He's 2 of them.
Yeah, Colin dominated Europe for such a long time, and when he went to the Worlds, that was usually where he either again dominated or he found somebody who kind of had his number. I think because he dominated for so long, people had a game plan specifically for him, which then that was like Collie Carroll, for example, and I think Vimero has beaten him as well in Worlds.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have the same domination in the world titles as he does in the European titles. But yeah, definitely a dominant force. Had some great fights with a lot of good high level people. He's fought the best of the best as well. Whether it's not, if it's not individual, it was team. So yeah, based on just results, I think he has to go on the B list. But yeah, a solid competitor and a scary guy with that leg of his.
Oh, absolutely. A monster for a very, very long time. Here's a tricky one. Thomas Barada. So the machine. So we have a 3-time world champion who's also been a king of Taekwondo, and outside of our sport, he's certainly won plenty with WACO as well. And now he moved into the area of being, I suppose, a bit of a legend of a coach as well, with so many champions coming out of his gym. The biggest thing for me with Thomas in terms of his approach to the ring is, regardless of who he was in against, he never looked like he was the underdog.
Fair, yeah. He was the mental monster, if you want to call it that. He was the guy who, when I was coming through, it was like he understood the personal branding before everyone else understood it, but everybody else fed into it as well at the same time and built him up because of the dominance that he had over everybody. And he put out some big names as well. I was just looking through when we were preparing for this, looking through the old list, and a couple of even famous Koreans who have really big highlights on YouTube, like 360 KOs and stuff like that, and he's beaten them. We did loads of videos on him before. He was just so dominant. His engine, his mindset, his aggression, everything.
Physicality,
So yeah, physicality, the whole lot. I think that he has to be up there with the GOATs.
Absolutely. Again, I suppose we should say to people, they're in the lines. There's no particular order. When you're in your tier, you're in your tier. I don't want to be trying to put people at the right place within the tier. It's not something that we're going to achieve. So moving on to Ireland's power couple, I suppose, we have Adam Shelley. Again, a 2-time senior world champion, 1-time junior world champion. And how many Euros did Adam take? You should have that off the top of your head.
2011. He won a junior, and then I'd say, he's at least 4, I'd say.
Yeah, I think 4 is right.
Yeah, when he's your buddy, you kind of forget about all these things, and he's just Adam.
Yeah, exactly right.
We have to bring him down a notch in the group chat, you see. We can't even get too big for his boots.
No. Well, I mean, it's okay. We've got a seat here, but...
Yeah. No, for me, he's up there with the best. Again, I think one of the highlights for me is the fact that he's beaten... When we were competing, and the likes of Miraz was the king of the pluses, Colin was the king of the middleweights, Zach was around, and he used to beat all of them as well in team. So I think when he was at his best, he was the GOAT of the whole lot of them. He was the pound for pound king for us, in my opinion. So I think, he's up there. I'd have him on the GOAT list, but that's me being biased because of going through that era with him, being on the team with him, and seeing the guys that he was against and who he's beaten, etc. But he's definitely on the A list for sure. But I'd give him a push for that GOAT list for sure. He'd give anybody up there a run for their money on his day, I feel.
I think it's certainly so capable, and the height meant he could fight different weights very, very well. He could fight bigger, he could fight smaller, because the height did give him that advantage. And certainly for the 5 years or so where he was at the top of his game in ITF, he did look like he was just everybody's pain to be dealing with. It's the longevity part of it that, Adam's still going, he's still fighting, he's just not doing it with us at the moment. And the
360s in MMA, we have to give him a shout out for that as well.
Fair play, Adam.
ITF, true and true.
but that's kind of where it has to go. I think especially when you've got 3-time world champions at senior who are sitting in that A tier, just because they maybe weren't entertaining enough to jump to to the forefront of the brain. Adam certainly was capable of providing some entertainment, as well as being effective and consistent over the period of time where he was doing it. So I think he's up there, maybe not quite in the legend of the sport stage for me just yet, compared to some of the guys that are there a while. And brings us to the last one of these, because the other 4 seem to be repeats. They must be just the most beautiful people or something. Their photos got in twice. We have Sarah Lahan, and shout out, of course,
Sister
to
Olympian. Shout out to Jenny.
Yeah, who might be our first ITF Taekwondo Olympian. I'm not too sure, but certainly for Ireland, our first Olympian. But for Sarah, she's put all of her results into our ITF Taekwondo. She's 2 World Championships in 2017 and 2023. She's European champion twice, I think, as well. And European and World champion in team sparring as well. You get an emotional match. That's the guarantee that Sarah will give you. There's no such thing as a cool, calm and collected Sarah Lahan championships. There's going to be emotion at some stage. Makes it enjoyable to watch. Again, for me, she's an absolutely solid A-tier competitor at this stage. And as to where, don't care. Still going. Yeah, maybe she'll give us one more.
We have, is she?
Oh, you've actually made me take a look. Yeah, I don't know where Julio's at or what he's going to do, but unless there's a comeback in the books, there's a few of them there now, or I could possibly decide that they're going to have a comeback. But I think
Alan's still wearing the door book, but for Spectec, so
yeah,
I don't think he's too interested in making a comeback. But yeah, I think she's the only active one. And again, I think we said this in the 198 episode. She was like the Paproska or the Lindsay of her era as well, the female who was feared and dominant. So yeah, for sure. There's so many great ITF champions on this list.
I'm going to put a challenge to you, because the way it's worked out, we've got 3 guys sitting up there at the top list, or the S tier, and we've got 2 ladies. Who's our third? If we put a third one of the ladies up there, who's that going to be?
I think you have to give it to Lindsay. 3 world titles over a long stretch, coming back from big injuries, etc. I don't think she gets the credit she probably deserves, just because her style was very straightforward and not crazy exciting. But for results, for consistency, for dominance, I think she's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, again, I think there's many good and valid choices to give right across that, but I think that's a singular thing to have in the same way as you said, well, we can't take David Kerr off of there. He's got those 4 world championships and no one else gets to say that. So he gets to, remain up there as a legend. I think it's very much the same in that, world championships won with 3 separate countries. Yeah, that's not common. That's not something that many people are going to do. So that's memorable.
Pound for pound? Who are your 2 pound for pound? Then we'll do a male and female.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make this a bit too easy. Sorry, this is Thomas and Katja.
Yeah, I think they're probably most people's mentions, to be fair.
Yeah, that's where I'll fall.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I think we might do another few of these fun ones. Maybe we'll even do most exciting, or maybe I think another option would be the one choice from each country, because there's a couple of people here with some solid countries behind them, and if you could only pick one fighter of your choice from that country, who would it be? That could be a tough one as well. So we might have a bit of fun with some of these.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. All right, folks, that's it for episode 200, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. Tell us about all of the wonderful people that we didn't include. We know there are plenty of them out there because we had to draw lines somewhere, or this episode would go on all day. So it is up in the comments, and let us know what we missed.
There you go.